All right, guys, we just want to welcome back to the Everything College Football podcast. Today, me and Nick here will be breaking down the Florida State Transfer Portal Haul, one of the nation's top classes in this year's cycle. Something is certainly brewing in Tallahassee, Nick. Around November, I think a lot of people expected that this team going into 2023, well, regardless of how the last month of the year went, would be a hot topic coming into this upcoming season. Yeah, Jordan Travis coming back. Jared Verse was probably going to be a first-round selection. He surprisingly comes back. This is a team that's got a lot of energy. They have a lot of talent as well. The biggest thing, though, with this team is they had talk before the transfer portal, and they put together this amazing class that we'll get to in a minute. What are your general thoughts so far on what Mike Norvell's been able to do? Because they've given him that patience. It was really on thin ice at one point, but this year he certainly proved that patience is probably going to pay off. Very respectable year for Florida State. Just what are your general thoughts on Mike Norvell, because he's recruited quite well, and of course he puts together this phenomenal class, and they're now going to be in contention to win the conference here in 2023.
It looked like Mike Norvell would find himself out of a job very quickly when he got to Tallahassee. It seemed like the leash was going to be short. He left for Memphis after a good 3 years at Memphis. Considering the state of that program, it's not too bad to build them to where they were. Finished 12-1 in a loss in the Cotton Bowl in his final season. He gets to Florida State. They're 3-6 in the first season, and people, wanted to come for his head. They felt the team was a disaster. The recruiting seemed like it was a mess. But honestly, I think Florida State was still reeling from the Jimbo Fisher era, and then obviously Willie Taggart had a terrible time in Tallahassee. So I think Mike Norvell deserved this time to kind of build something here. 10-3 this past season, a win in the Cheez-It Bowl, and this team has attacked the portal. Jared Verse turned out to be a fantastic portal get from last season. Came over from Albany, made the jump from FCS to FBS, and had a fantastic year. Could have been a first-round draft pick. He stays part of the system. Jordan Travis, fantastic year, really broke out. A lot of these guys, I like the way they had to set up at running back, multiple different running backs, getting a lot of different ground game. Mike Norvell is hitting the portal hard. Florida State is still an attractive name. I know they've been down for the past, 7-8 years or so, but they're still a national name that people care about. This is a school that matters in the national grand scheme of things in college football, and especially in the state of Florida. This team has name recognition. People want to be a Seminole. It means something to go to Florida State. This team has won national championships in the past. They've had historic coaches in the past, and Mike Norvell is opportunity here. They beat LSU week 1 this past season. They get LSU again next season, week 1. This school has a serious opportunity to build a winning reputation with Mike Norvell, and this transfer portal class is another big piece of that puzzle.
Before we get to the guys they added, let's look at who they lost, because I think that's certainly notable as well. Looking at the first name, Amari Gaynor, 210 career tackles, didn't play much this past year, but the 3 years before that, he was a starter. Or at least his production was starter-like at linebacker. So that's going to be a bit of a loss there. Rod Orr, a 4-star. 23rd ranked offensive tackle in the class of 2021. Jarrett Jackson, 6'6", 300 pounds, defensive tackle. Now, they got an ideal replacement that we'll get to in a minute from Miami. But Jarrett Jackson had a bit of an disappointing season compared to what I thought he would be. Keyshawn Helton, a wide receiver. This guy's been around a long time, 61 career receptions. He's off to Cincinnati. Sidney Williams at linebacker, a converted defensive back. George Wilson, another 4-star in the class of 2021. I think the biggest name here is Sam McCall, 48th ranked overall prospect in last year's class. He's off to Texas A&M. Demore Tate, Malik Feast are 2 other guys in the back end. They're going to depart. Malik McLean, another notable name. Some good depth at wide receiver from Florida State, so I don't think they're hurting by any means by losing him and Helton. And then Trayshawn Ward, I think, is the most notable here. 620 yards and 7 touchdowns last year, over 6 yards per touch in a loaded backfield. Outside of Ward, because obviously his speed and his versatility is certainly a big loss. Who do you think they're going to miss the most here and who they're losing?
I want to say Jarrett Jackson. I think Jarrett Jackson's potential is still incredible. 6'6", 300-pound defensive tackle. Didn't have the best season in Tallahassee, but I think he has some significant potential to continue to grow. Sam McCall as well as a big loss, 48th overall prospect in the class of 2022, high-rated cornerback. They were big on this guy in Tallahassee. A lot of talent there. He heads to A&M as they continue to try and reel from their transfer portal losses. Keyshawn Helton was another good depth piece, 61 career receptions. I like the depth they had at wide receiver. Lose 2 pieces there. Trayshawn Ward is the big fish they lose, though. I had him as my breakout star in the preseason. Didn't quite hit that breakout level, but 628 yards, 7 touchdowns is still a pretty respectable season considering how much they balanced the running attack at Florida State.
Now, looking at the part that everyone's been waiting for, who they added. I think this is the nation's best portal class. It can get started with 2 guys on defense. Gilbert Edmond from South Carolina, 39 tackles, 9 tackles for loss in 2022. And Darnell Jackson, like I said, an ideal replacement for Jarrett being gone from Miami, 6'6", 300 pounds, a very strong tackler in the hole. This is a guy that was very productive. I thought he was a very good run defender last season for Miami. He was a highly graded defender as a run stopper. I think this guy's going to be even better here than Jackson was. Jarrett, that is, and then Gilbert Edmond, of course, 2.5 sacks. He'll be, at worst, a crucial depth piece here at pass rush. Derek McClendon, they stepped up last year. This is a very lethal pass rush. Of course, they get Jared Verse back. So unit had 40 sacks a season ago. That's some highly impressive numbers. They only get better here on the defensive line. That was certainly a strength for them coming into the year. How do you feel about those two defensive line pieces, Nick?
I think it's important to continue to add defensive depth for this Florida State team. Mike Norvell's defenses have been really good in his time so far in Tallahassee. They produced some talent in the NFL draft, and they've gotten after the quarterback, like you said, 40 sacks a season ago. I think Edmond has serious depth role. 9 tackles for loss this past season, 39 tackles overall, and the couple of sacks he has as well. He can get after the quarterback, great pressure, good speed off the edge there. I think he's a good fit. Darnell Jackson, great, huge hole piece, plugs the hole, great against the run. I like this, like I said, the size matches up perfectly with what they lost in the other Jackson, so I think that's a good kind of replacement, plug and fit type of thing here. I think Darnell Jackson has some serious potential to succeed.
It's a very good defensive line and plenty of depth and experience for Florida State. Looking at some of these offensive pieces, 2 tight ends. Jaheim Bell from South Carolina, a very versatile offensive weapon. I think Kyle Morlock, 6'7", 250 from Shorter. Very underrated name. This is a name that certainly was highly sought after. A lot of Power 5 people wanted his attention. He's a more traditional tight end than Bell. He's a D2 All-American with a bigger frame, so he's going to be used down the seam or in some creative ways in space, I'd imagine. Replaces Cameron McDonald in that way. Jaheim Bell, I think everyone's excited to see what he can do in Alex Edkins' offense because he has an explosive skill set. And, of course, this is a very high-powered offense that runs through explosiveness. So I'm very interested to see how that will incorporate him because last year South Carolina didn't utilize him that much in the passing game. Only 25 receptions for 231 yards, had 2 scores. And he led the team with, he didn't lead the team, but he had 73 carries, 361 yards, and another 3 scores. He's a big guy to be running the football, but that's something South Carolina did, and they trusted him. I thought he did pretty well when he got the ball in his hands, regardless of how he got it to him. So how do you feel about these 2 tight ends on an offense that's already getting a lot back led by Jordan Travis?
I think Bell could be a great fit here. Had a good season in 2021 as well, 30 receptions for about 500 yards plus 5 scores. So there's a lot of talent here with Bell, just underused in Columbia, and now he transfers in to Florida State with great experience, great size, versatile offensive weapon. I think he has some real chance, 6'3", 232, great pass catcher. I like the speed on Bell as well, averages 9.2 yards per catch. And then Kyle Morlock, the size, it's impressive, right? 6'7", 250, a real good blocking tight end, could definitely lay down a few blocks here and there. I think this is a great fit in this offense. I like to see what they can do considering Jordan Travis has another year of practice under his belt. The arm strength only going to get better. The pocket presence only going to get better, and I think they have an option here with a great quarterback and 2 tight ends that could add some real talent and some real depth to the position.
Obviously, they added some high-end names in the 24/7 Sports rankings, but I think the most underrated part of this class is what they did to the offensive line. Keandre Jones, a guard from Auburn, 6'4", 340. He's a quite impressive pass blocker. Jeremiah Byers, he was great in both facets of his game at UTEP 2 years in a row. This past season was his best, though. Byers is going to be a big-time addition. Bless Harris was hurt in week 0 versus FCS school. He's likely going to take over that right side, I think, in replace of Harris, or potentially Robert Scott will be moved to right tackle, and they'll put Byers at left. Then Casey Roderick, one of the guys that ended up leaving Colorado, very strong pass blocker, one of the lone bright spots for the Buffaloes. You're noticing a theme here, though, Nick, because this offensive line, they really struggled to protect against the pass rush, and they upgraded here significantly because this was an offensive line that really moved people on the ground, a phenomenal rushing attack, but pass protection certainly struggled, and they pick up 3 great names here that are going to help with that immediately.
I like Byers a lot here against the pass protection. I think he's a good fit, kind of slot him on the offensive line where you need him, kick him out wherever position you need to put him in. I think he has some great pass block potential here. Keandre Jones as well, another big piece in the pass blocking game. Like you said, they were great on the ground, had good run block ability on the offensive line, but they struggled in the pass block departments. This is 3 pieces here that could really add up and have a solid pass blocking grade. Casey Roderick as well leaves from Colorado, one of the lone bright spots last year in Boulder. One was a terrible team that had 1 win all season. So I think Roderick fits in nice. I think Jones at guard is a really nice piece, and Byers I think is the best piece on the offensive line as a whole. A lot of potential here coming from UTEP. Good piece, good fit in there for this offense.
And 2 elite defenders they added. Fentrell Cypress, 4th-ranked player in the class, elite coverage defender this past year. Length, athleticism, high-end football IQ. It's another position where they lose a guy to the portal, but upgrade at the same time. Sam McCall departs. We showed an example of that earlier with the 2 Jacksons on the defensive line. And then Braden Fiske, highly sought after defensive lineman from Western Michigan. He was great in 2021. I thought he was even better this past season. 6'5", 300, some very impressive size there. 20 tackles for loss, 10 sacks the past 2 seasons. One of the best defenders in college football. He was great versus the run, very active as a pass rusher. Again, this defensive line is stacked for the Noles, Nick, and they get even better. It was a strong suit for them a season ago, and they have all this beef in the middle, and they're certainly adding more presence on their pass rush. This is going to be a very fierce unit. How do you feel about that defensive line one more time? Of course, Cypress feels a big need in the back end.
Yes, a huge pickup on the defensive line from Western Michigan, 12 tackles for loss last season. Another great piece. Like I said, Mike Norvell's defensive line has been very solid throughout his time in Tallahassee, and this is another great piece to add in there. I think Fentrell Cypress is a huge add. Stays in the ACC, moves from Virginia to Florida State, kind of comfortable with the style and pace of play already in the conference. High football IQ, great athlete, good length. I think he's a great quarterback. I think he slots in perfectly. Great day one starter. A lot of potential there on the defense.
Yeah, again, I think this is the nation's best portal class. Obviously, Jameet Bell, Fentrell Cypress will be the headliners, but I love what they did in the trenches. 3 good linemen on the defensive side and 3 more will make an impact on the offensive side that really going to help them improve an area they struggled in, and that was pass protection. Top to bottom, I love this class, Nick. How do you feel about it? Do you think it's the nation's best? Who do you think is going to be the biggest impact player here, and who's a guy that maybe might not kind of impress this upcoming season?
I think this is the best class in the nation. For me, my big impact player is going to be Byers here. I think he's going to be a great fit on this offensive line. Fantastic at UTEP. Good player, good size, highly sought after tackle. So obviously Florida State lands one of the guys that was really popular in the portal. This is a good fit for me. I think he's going to slide right in and be a perfect fit on this offensive line. I feel like the guy that has the potential to disappoint the most might be Kyle Morlock. I think he is the most underrated name on the list, but I think he has potential to kind of just be a quiet, irrelevant piece in the offense. I think they're going to kind of hit Bell a lot more, but Morlock is there being your more traditional blocking tight end. I think Roderick, he has the potential to be probably struggle the most. I think the transition from Colorado to Florida State might be a difficult one for him. I like the pass block rate. I like the snaps he had, but I think he's just going to have a bit of a tough time making that transition. I think Jones and Byers have a better chance to step up on the offensive line this season.
Yeah, that's going to be it for today's episode, guys. Very excited for this class. Very excited for Florida State football this upcoming season. They do kick off the year week 1 versus LSU in Orlando, so a bit of a home game there. As always, Nick, I appreciate you joining me.
Yeah, excited for this team. I think they've got great potential in Tallahassee, and they're returning to national relevance.
That's going to be it for today's episode, guys. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe. See you next time.